Takeru is an unfortunate loser who is hated for being leader of the most useless anti-magic squad in his academy. However, everything changes when the strongest student helps him unlock a powerful ancient relic, so he can start cracking his enemies by day and her cheeks by night. It all starts at an anti-magic academy where Takeru is being mocked by other students for constantly bringing his sword to gunfights. However, he endures the ridicule, so he can one day work as an inquisitor and repay the bad debts his parents left him. Just then, he arrives at the 35th Platoon's office and opens it to find his comrades, Ikaruga and Ootori, goofing around with Ootori posing in a bunny costume. Frustrated, he's reminded that he's the leader of the hottest but most useless platoon in an academy. Meanwhile, in the chairman's office, a redhead with anger issues named Aka is getting scolded for breaking the rules of being an inquisitor and taking a life. As a result, the chairman, Sugetsu, strips her of her title and sends her back to the academy to join the most unfortunate platoon as punishment. Moments later, Sugetsu barges into the 35th Platoon's office and finds them lazing around as usual. He then reminds them that their performance as a platoon is worse than a Katy Perry concert, but he announces that he's brought them back up, just as Oka walks into the room. Ootori recognizes her as a previous top student at the academy and wonders how she made it to the trenches, while Takeru stares like he's seen a ghost. When Ootori asks what's wrong, Takeru admits that they used to be classmates, but when he tries to remind Oka about it, she insists she's never laid eyes on such an ugly face before. Later that evening, the team goes out on a mission to try to raise points for their platoon. Ikaruga stays by the computers to explain the details of the mission, while Ootori is on sniper duty. When Ootori spots the targets, Takeru and Oka sneak into the building and prepare to ambush them. Takeru then gives the signal for Ootori to take out the guards, so she fires several shots, but when Takeru and Oka barge in, the men inside are unarmed because the airhead Ootori was shooting at the wrong building. Takeru immediately gets cornered, but the men start mocking the weak-looking sword he's packing down there. But when one of the men shoots his gun at him, Takeru goes God mode and slices the bullet in half. Then, with red eyes like a meth addict, he promises to cut all the men down, but before he goes on a rampage, Ikaruga whispers sweet nothings in his ear to calm him down. Just then, the lights go out, and Aka starts taking down the men one by one, but the last coward deploys an instant magic artifact that summons a mecha suit. However, while the dude sprays bullets all over the room like unborn children, Oka hits at its weak spots and stops the machine. Takeru is impressed and runs over to her when he trips and grabs one of her promised lands. However, before he can get off, Ootori finally fires her gun into the right room, but the bullet ricochets into Takeru and knocks him flat out. Weeks later, Ootori snaps at Oka for abandoning the group to go on solo missions, but Oka points out that their platoon is a disgrace because they all suck at their jobs. After she storms out, Takeru admits that Oka does have a point, but he hatches a plan to help her open up to the team. Hours later, the idiot throws a surprise welcome party for Oka, but she insists it's a waste of time and turns to leave when Takeru spots a cut on her arm and asks how she got it. However, when she refuses to tell him, he chases her down and insists that, as her captain, he can't let an injured member go on a mission alone. At this, they head to a secret magic organization called Valhalla and start taking down the guards to rescue hostages. There, Oka finds a gory scene where the people she had come to save had already been chopped up. Angered, Aka insists on unaliving any witch she can find, but when Takeru tries to talk her out of it, she reveals that a witch unalived her whole family, and she's vowed to get revenge by exterminating them. However, before she can take the shot, Takeru pushes her out of the way and promises not to give up trying to be her comrade. Later, at Sugetsu's office, Sugetsu tries to make Oka see her new platoon differently, but she says he's just hyping the circus of clowns. He then points out that someone in the platoon is a Relic Eater candidate, making Aoka light up for a bit, but she says it's impossible. So he explains that the Relic Eaters choose their own partners, and just when he hints that she's not a newbie on the topic, Aka walks out. Sugetsu then notices a Relic Eater named Lapis in his office and says he hopes she forms a contract soon. Somewhere else, a witch named Maori meets up with a necromancer named Haunted, and when she spots bloodstains all over him, she asks how many people he has eliminated. In response, Haunted says he unalived only 50 people and assures her that he's making the world better, since they were mostly criminals. On hearing this, Mari wishes she could end him right there, but Haunted says that the Inquisition is their enemy and promises to end the hate against witches. Meanwhile, in the platoon room, Usagi shows off her awful shooting skills and says she missed her targets in the last mission because she was nervous. Just then, Oka arrives, and Takeru suggests they all have lunch together, but Oka thinks he's ordering her, and says she refuses to accept him as the captain. Suddenly, she starts lecturing Takeru on how he doesn't deserve to be a captain since he joined the Inquisition for money. However, Ikaruga interrupts her, pointing out that she was brought to the academy because she was stripped of her rank of Inquisitor because she executes criminals at will. Hearing this, Aka gets annoyed and leaves the room. On a roof in the city, Haunted comments on how peaceful the world has become and suddenly summons a monster to put an end to the era of peace. He then commands his summoned beast to head to the Anti-Magic Academy to rescue imprisoned witches. At the same time, Oka visits her family's graves and is surprised when Takaru shows up. When Takaru asks her about the graves, Oka explains that her parents and little sister were buried there. Takaru then asks Oka how they died, reminding her of the horrific death of her family. So after she tells him, she reveals that her life is devoted to hunting witches. When she adds that it's why she executes criminals, Takaru says she's wrong. Aka then asks how she's wrong, and while she explains that she abandoned her humanity to defeat her enemies, they suddenly hear a loud bang from the city. Meanwhile, Oka rushes into the city and finds it crawling with ghouls, so she figures it's a necromancer's doing. She then runs into some soldiers holding them off and asks them what's going on. In response, one of them reveals that he heard from men on the scene that an Einherjar has appeared. Somewhere nearby, Takeru cuts down a ghoul and wonders why Oka ran off by herself, so as he runs off to find her, he runs into Lapis. Just then, Ikaruga patches him to a broadcast message from Sugetsu, announcing that the Einherjar is a hero summoned from ancient times and is headed for the Academy's restricted zone. Since the Academy doesn't have the manpower to fight, Sugetsu calls on the students to lend their strength. After this, Ikaruga says they can either fight or run, and asks Takeru to decide. In response, Takaru says that Oka is on her way to the academy with a personal beef against witches, so he decides the best way to stop her is to hunt the Einherjar. Meanwhile, Oka spots the monster destroying buildings and fires shots at it. However, the Einherjar retaliates with an attack that throws her off balance and cuts her thigh. Despite this, Oka keeps firing more shots and evading the Einherjar's attacks. Unfortunately, the monster catches her while jumping around and flings her into a fountain. Determined to stay alive, she gets back up and reluctantly summons a gun relic eater named Vlad. After asking Vlad to heal her wounds, she fires some shots at the monster, but it heals itself. So Vlad tells Oka that the monster can't be defeated unless its scabbard is destroyed first. So Oka combines her guns to use a hallmark magic and permits Vlad to draw from her blood. In response, Vlad says she wishes to give more blood instead of making a contract that activates the spell. Suddenly, the monster gets pierced all over by spikes, but the spikes vanish alongside the guns, and Vlad informs Aka to subscribe to Premium for more, since her free trial is over. Just then, the Einherjar lands a hit on her as the monster tries to end her for good. Takeru sweeps in and attacks it while ignoring Oka's warnings. Takeru then charges towards the monster, evading its attacks as he lands a hit and realizes how hard the monster's body is. Despite this, he attacks again and asks Ikaruga if she figured anything out. In response, Ikaruga reveals that the monster uses a magic item called Excalibur and a railgun, which cools off between shots. So, the moment the monster shoots at Takeru, he dodges and quickly attacks with his sword while Usagi fires some shots at the monster. Suddenly, the Einherjar activates a hallmark magic and unleashes some beasts on Takeru. Shortly after, Takeru regrets his actions while he bleeds out, and out of nowhere, Lapis shows up. Just then, Takeru finds himself in a strange place where Lapis asks if he can abandon his humanity to defeat the enemy. This reminds him of Oka, so he says he can, and Lapis forms a contract with him. Suddenly, Takeru's body gets suited up for witch hunting, and while he wonders what just happened, Lapis explains that she's a relic eater that can only be used by inquisitors and states that he's now her host. After this, she informs him that the enemy is approaching, so the Einherjar shoots at Takeru, but he slashes through the attack and suddenly attacks the monster. Surprised, his teammates ask him if he's the one, but he says he'll explain to them later. While Aka realizes he's the one Sugetsu talked about, Takeru starts clashing swords with the Einherjar. After this, the Einherjar casts a hallmark magic, but Takeru follows Lapis's instruction and casts his hallmark magic by pulling a trigger on his weapon. When the Einherjar's attack hits him, Takeru's sword absorbs the magic, so he attacks the monster with the absorbed magic and defeats it. Afterwards, Takeru sits with Oka and offers to carry her revenge burden with her. When he tells her to rely on him, she tries to speak, but he reminds her they're comrades, so she agrees. Sometime later, at the Anti-Magic Academy, Kurogane reports to Sugetsu that an oral witch who was captured can't be interrogated because her memory had been erased. When Kurogane states that her name is Mari and she's been wanted for a while, Sugetsu asks if her friends won't try to break her out, and Kurogane says it's possible. Just then, they arrive at the holding room, and on opening the door, Sugetsu welcomes her to the academy. Later, in a meeting with the members of the small fry platoon, Sugetsu says he's got a special mission for them since they defeated the Einherjar. After this, he calls on Mari, who then steps out as he introduces her to the platoon and explains that the academy is experimenting by getting witches to join the Inquisition. Hearing this, Oka gets pissed while Sugetsu explains that their mission is to guard her and keep her identity secret for a while. When they leave the office, Mari says she doesn't need to be guarded and asks them to leave her alone since she's got a trackable collar on. However, Takeru says that the collar is rigged to explode if she uses magic. When he asks what they should do about her, Usagi suggests they let her kamikaze herself, and when Ikaruga agrees with her, Alka suddenly reminds them that it's their mission to protect her and tells Mari not to move without telling them. Hearing this, Mari asks if she needs their permission to move, and soon after, things get heated up between both ladies, but Takeru intervenes. This creates tension between the two ladies, so they start competing over everything. The next day in class, the teacher calls on Aka to answer a question, but since she can't, Mari answers the question, making Aka furious. During lunch break, Mari tells Oka that she's got fluff for brains. Immediately, Oka fires back, saying she sucks at athletics. Suddenly, things get heated up again, and as both ladies try to get in each other's mouths, Takeru tries to work his magic again, but gets his lights knocked out. Later, while he nurses his swollen cheek, Mari offers him a cold drink. But when he starts getting funny ideas, she tells him it's for his pregnant cheek. So he thanks her and apologizes on Aka's behalf and tries to portray her as an angel. However, Mari says he's stupid and reminds him that she's only reacting as any inquisitor should to a witch. Ignoring this, Takeru says that being a witch doesn't make her his enemy and adds that she's one of them. Mari then tells him not to be too trusting since she could strangle him in his sleep. After this, she points out that Takeru must have joined the Inquisition because he hates witches, but Takeru debunks this and asks why she joined up too. In response, Mari says she wants to make everyone see that magic isn't dangerous and can be used to help people. On hearing this, Takeru commends her good intent, but Mari says he's weird and asks if he doesn't hate witches and magic. So, Takeru reveals that he doesn't, since she just proved that not all witches are bad. When he starts walking away, Mari asks for his name, and as they introduce each other, Mari suddenly gets a flashback from her lost memories. Before she was arrested, Mari berated Haunted for hurting innocent people. While he made fun of her for this, some inquisitors showed up, and he executed them with a spell. While she cried about this, more inquisitors showed up to arrest them, but Haunted had vanished, leaving behind an instant forgetfulness spell that fried her memories. Somewhere else, Haunted converses with his magical item, Nact, and it tells him that he could have executed Mari instead of frying her brains, but Haunted says he can't, since she's got a golden clam. He then says that he didn't think the Inquisitors would catch her, and adds that he can't leave her with them. Later in the platoon room, Oka and Mari keep going at each other's throats, so Takeru intervenes, but falls into trouble with Oka when he addresses Mari by her first name. Suddenly, Usagi shut them up, since they had bigger things to worry about, and showed them a sheet containing the Academy's mock battle tournament fixtures. Later, when Takeru checks the fixtures on a notice board, a dude named Kyuya shows up and points out that he looks glum, as expected of a loser. When he asks if Takeru's platoon is really in the tournament, Takeru confirms this. So Yuya says they've got balls of steel and asks if he realizes that their platoons will face off at the tournament. Before he responds, Kyuya points out that Takeru's platoon can't last in the tournament and takes his leave. On his way out, Takeru runs into Mari standing outside and asks why she hasn't gone home yet. In response, Mari says she was waiting for him, since she'll be staying at his crib. Suddenly, Oka grips her head and says she can't let her stay alone with Takeru, since she might seduce him. When Mari says she has no charms, Oka insists that Takeru might fall for her perky cuties since he's a man of culture. On getting to Takeru's haunted mansion, Oka asks why the house looks like a horror movie setup, but Takeru dismisses her worries and hands them the key while telling them to make themselves comfortable, since he's got work. Later, when Takeru returns to his apartment, he finds Mari cleaning up after a bath, and while she tells him to get out, his brain freezes. Suddenly, Oka rushes out with nothing and jumps on both of them, while Takeru tries to claim his innocence with a face full of plots. Later that night, before bed, Takeru asks Mari what she thinks about the academy, but when she says she has no opinion yet, Takeru assures her that she'll get along better with the platoon over time. However, Mari explains that something tells her she's not an angel, as he thinks. The next day, during the tournament, while Takeru avoids getting shot, he asks Usagi to snipe his attackers, but she starts crying. So he calls on Aka to help, but she's far from Usagi. When Takeru calls on Mari, she says she's not helping with the battle. Meanwhile, the ops start teasing Takeru to use his sword. Just then, Takeru offers to be a decoy and tells Oka to take care of the two enemies near Usagi. Just when Takeru steps out to distract the oops, Mari decides to help and charges out of hiding. Immediately, the enemy sniper takes her out instead, and while Aka takes out the vanguards, Usagi snipes the sniper. After the match, Takaru suggests they celebrate, but Aka tells them to go on without her, since she needs to report to the chairman. A few moments later, when she arrives at his office, she finds a report on Mari and discovers she's actually an oral witch who lost her memories. To make matters worse, she was involved with Valhalla and was guilty of murder. Sometime later, while they watch robots wrestle, Ikaruga starts yapping about how robots make her clams soak better than a real man can. Just then, Oka joins them and apologizes for being late, but Mari makes some rude comment that gets her annoyed, so she asks to speak to Takaru in private. When she tells him everything she discovered, Takaru refuses to believe it. Meanwhile, from the control station, Kurogane checks the camera feeds for anything sus, and just then, Sugetsu shows up asking how things are. Kurogane then reveals that Oka must have found out the truth about Mari since she was snooping around the crime scene. Unbothered, Sugetsu says it doesn't matter, since it won't change Takaru's mind even if he finds out. He then asks if Valhalla will show up, but Kurogane says he's unsure. Meanwhile, during a tournament battle, Mari wonders why she's sandwiched between Takaru and Oka. Takaru then assures her that she'll be protected, but Aka keeps wondering why they're charged with protecting a criminal. While the enemy platoon taunts them to step out and fight, one of them, named Yoshimizu, suddenly starts acting weird, and some tentacles suddenly burst out of her belly, taking out some of her comrades immediately. Seeing this, Takaru rushes out and cuts off some of the tentacles. Just then, a huge petal emerges from Yoshimizu and blooms, revealing Haunted, who then introduces himself as the commanding officer of Valhalla. After this, he announces that he's there to rescue Marie, making her wonder how he knows her name. On seeing her frightened face, Haunted says it makes him want to bust a fat one, but he gets interrupted by bullets flying at him from all directions. Quickly, Haunted creates an impenetrable barrier and announces that those trapped in it can't escape, and when he approaches them, Takaru tells Mari to hide while he handles him. Haunted then asks Mari if she's cheating on him with Takaru, and jokingly begs her to love him the way he loves her. Having had enough, Takaru tells him to shut up, so Haunted asks who he thinks he is, and as things get heated up between them, Takaru activates his relic eater and asks Lapis for information about his enemy. Lapis then reveals that he is an S-level Valhalla necromancer. Just then, Haunted figures Takaru must be the one who defeated the Einerjar, so he pretends to be scared. When he asks Takaru to forgive him, Takaru says he doesn't forgive easily and suddenly attacks. However, Haunted smiles deviously and pierces through him with his weapon before transforming into his battle gear. Somewhere else in the barrier, Oka and Ikaruga wake Usagi up, and she asks what's going on, so Oka says she'll explain later. She then contacts Sugetsu and threatens to indict him for unlawfully arresting Mari. When Sugetsu asks why, she explains how she checked the crime scene and discovered that the magic that eliminated the Inquisitors is not Mari's. Hearing this, Sugetsu offers to let her cut a deal and asks what she wants. Meanwhile, Haunted tells Takeru that he swings like a defective pendulum. When Takeru overhears Haunted talking to Nacht, he wonders if he's also using a relic eater, but Lapis explains that Haunted pulled off a hero transformation using a lost-type magical item. She further explains that it's a sword of destruction, a Scandinavian hero once used. While Takaru struggles to believe that he got beaten in a sword fight, Haunted calls out to Mari and says that since she's a witch, she belongs with her kind. In response, Mari says she has no idea who he is, so Haunted cancels her forgetfulness spell, making her remember how she once lived in an orphanage and agreed to work with Haunted after Valhalla took the orphans hostage. As tears flood her eyes, she realizes why she's been feeling like a horrible person, so she apologizes to Takaru. Meanwhile, Haunted offers to let her see the orphans if she leaves with him. Mari lights up on hearing this, but Takaru reveals that he's lying, since Oka discovered in her investigation that the orphans are all dead. When Mari points out that she spoke with the kids over the phone, Haunted pulls a trick that summons the orphans' ghosts to prove that he wasn't lying and adds that he took their lives. So Mari screams while Haunted gets excited, saying he'd like to hear such sounds in the bedroom. While Mari blames herself for their deaths, Takaru tells her to devote her life to saving more lives with magic to atone for her sins and offers to share her burdens if it's too painful to bear. Facing Haunted, Takaru asks if he has any last wishes, but the wizard laughs, saying he is untouched by Haunted's words. Suddenly, he charges towards Takaru and attacks him with his sword. In retaliation, Takaru charges towards Haunted, but gets hit before even getting close. So, Lapis activates an analysis filter that enables Takaru to see that Haunted's sword attacks remain in an area long after the attack. He then asks Lapis if she can change his sword form, and she confirms that she can. So he attacks Haunted again, but quickly commands Lapis to shorten his sword. Immediately, he stabs Haunted, who then says he's clever. Quickly, Takaru changes his sword into a larger one and hits Haunted with a series of attacks, but Haunted distracts him by throwing Yoshimitsu's body at him. When he knocks Takeru out, Mari remembers a spell she was taught to use to protect someone she cares about, but since she has an anti-magic collar on, she figures it'll be her last act. She then casts the spell and fires it off, but Haunted evades the attack. Surprisingly, the collar doesn't explode, so Aka tells her that she blackmailed Sugetsu into disarming it. She then reminds Mari of her comments about how magic can save lives, so she tells her to prove it. Suddenly, Mari casts another spell and aims it at Haunted, but he dodges the attack and tells her she missed. Unknown to him, the spell was shot at Takeru to jumpstart him, so when he sees Takeru on his feet again, he activates his hallmark magic to put him down for good. Quickly, Takeru does the same, and when they clash, Lapis explains that her hallmark is absorbing magic, so Takeru pokes Haunted with his sword, and his armor suddenly vanishes. Surprised, Haunted asks for his name, and when Takeru tells him, he figures he's from a familiar clan of demon hunters and vanishes before Takeru can interrogate him. After this, Takeru collapses, and the barrier disappears, so Mari runs over to thank him. Sometime later, at Usagi's home, Usagi's mom gives her an earful because of her declining grades and decides to marry her off since she'll fare better in bedroom activities. When she announces that it'll be her last month at the school, Usagi tries to plead with her mother, but the woman shuns her and says she's not her mother. Later at school, a student executive chairman named Raima announces that an abolished witch hunting festival will be revived. And when Takeru asks who the student is, Ikaruga then reveals that he's a new student. Just then, Raima reveals that at the festival, a special currency will be used which can be exchanged for credit points or cash. While the other students marvel at this, Usagi isn't impressed, so Mari asks why, since their platoon needs more points. Aoka then says they should be focusing on the actual platoon mission instead of fun and games. She then turns to ask Takeru if he agrees, but they spot him looking weird with a devious smile. Shortly after, in the platoon room, Takeru eagerly says he'll be enrolling them for the festival for personal reasons, making the ladies wonder why he's so fired up. However, Ikaruga points out that Takeru is only locked in because of the money. While Takeru starts brainstorming alone, Ikaruga explains that he inherited a load of debts from his parents, so he intends to clear some of it with his share of money from the festival. When she adds that he also has a little sister he caters to, the ladies realize why he's acting like a true captain for the first time. Meanwhile, Usagi arrives at the door of the platoon room and overhears her comrades planning for the festival and talking about her, so she barges in and asks why they were discussing the witch hunting festival in her absence, but a guy named Ishida walks in, interrupts them, and introduces himself as the captain of a test platoon. He then suggests they form an alliance for the witch hunting festival, since they're the smallest in numbers, so Takeru agrees. Later, Usagi wonders why they have to join another platoon when she was hoping to enjoy her last battle with her teammates. Suddenly, she bumps into Rima and apologizes. But the moment she realizes it's him, Rima says he was worried when he heard that she joined the school and assures her that she doesn't need to be there any longer. Meanwhile, Usagi gets a panic attack and falls to her knees, but Rima proudly stands there, saying she belongs with him forever. Coincidentally, Takeru passes by and sees them, so he rushes over to help her. Rima then figures he must be her platoon leader and introduces himself as Usagi's childhood friend. Before leaving, Rima says that Usagi is his belonging and tells him to take care of her. So, Takeru tries to help Usagi relax and pats her head. Somewhere else, Oka runs into Shizuka, the student council secretary, who then says that the president would like to see her. Shortly after, they go through a secret door to meet Nagaru, the president, who then welcomes Oka and apologizes to Shizuka for making her sneak around for her. In response, Shizuka says she has always wanted to be a spy. After this, Nagaru asks Shizuka if she knows of a witch named Mephisto, but she says she's only heard the name. Nagaru then explains that she's an urban legend and a witch that devours human minds and asks Oka what she'd do if she really existed. Oka responds, saying it's stupid to believe in fairy tales, so Nagaru says it's not a fairy tale and reveals that Mephisto assaulted her subordinates, leaving them possessed, crazy, or dead. Somewhere else, Takeru and the other ladies watch Usagi sleep, and when they all have to leave, Usagi grabs Takeru's shirt, so he chooses to stay. Mari then threatens to harvest his berries if he does anything nasty to Usagi. Later at night, when Usagi awakens, she asks what happened, and Takeru reveals that she fainted in the hallway, so she apologizes for making him stay up so late, but Takeru reminds her of his promise to stay with her and offers to take her home. Just then, Usagi realizes he's holding her hand, so she freaks out, but Takeru says it's not a big deal and suggests they leave. Meanwhile, in the secret room, Nagaru asks Oka what she makes of Rema, but since she can't tell what she's driving at, Nagaru comments that he transferred into the school recently and is already planning festivals as the chairman of the executive committee. In addition to this, Nagaru says that the school hasn't been attacked ever since he arrived and asks if it doesn't look strange. At the same time, while Takeru walks Usagi back to her dorm, he asks her if something happened between her and Reima. In response, Usagi says it's not worth talking about, so Takeru notices she's not her usual self. He then offers to help her with everything in his power if she asks for his help. Usagi then asks if he can marry her, and while Takeru marvels at this, she explains that Reima is her fiancé and she has to marry him to seal their future. Shortly after, she informed Takeru that she'll be leaving the academy in a month. Shocked to hear this, Takeru catches up with her and tells her to sleep over at his place. Afterwards, while she takes a shower at Takeru's apartment, she wonders if Takeru intends to pump her full of babies to ruin her betrothal. Suddenly, she starts imagining herself in a wedding gown with Takeru. After struggling with her thoughts, she resigns to fate and hopes Takeru will be impressed with her assets. A few moments later, she steps out of the shower in a towel, making Takeru freak out and ask what she's up to. Usagi then says he didn't provide a change of clothes, so he tells her to use one of his shirts. However, Usagi says it's unnecessary, since they'll both end up without clothes eventually. Suddenly, she walks towards him, but trips and falls into his arms while her towel falls off. She then says it's her first time, and as she tries to kiss him, the other ladies barge in on them and freeze on the spot. After they gave Takeru the thrashing of a lifetime, Takeru tells them about Usagi's marriage problem with Reima, and while Oka wonders why his name keeps popping up, Ikaruga suggests she marry Takeru instead. Usagi then asks why they all showed up, and Takeru says he invited them for a strategy meeting to help her. When Usagi marvels at this, Takeru says that all they need to do is improve her grades to a level enough to convince her parents to let her stay. Usagi then says she can't let them work so hard for her when she has nothing to give in return, but Ikaruga and the other ladies assure her that they've got her back. Suddenly, Usagi tears up and blames herself for always being the damsel in distress. However, Takeru reminds her of how many times she saved them in battle and states that they'd be dead without her. So they decided to come up with a plan for the festival. Afterwards, Aka thinks of her chat with Nagaru, and suddenly spots another student painting the floor, so she asks what she is doing. And the girl says that Reima suggested they decorate the campus for the festival. Somewhere else, Reima bumps into Takeru and says he's finally getting married to his belonging. Irritated, Takeru says that Usagi doesn't belong to anyone, so Reima asks Takeru what he is to Usagi, and he responds, saying he's her comrade. Reima finds it funny and asks how someone who murdered her brother has a trusted comrade. Annoyed, Takeru grabs his shirt and tells him to cut the crap, but Reima says he isn't lying and promises to make Usagi happy. So, Takeru says his platoon will do everything they can to prevent him from having her, while Reima says he'll make her his and walks off angrily. Somewhere nearby, Oka asks Vlad to give her an aerial view of the campus, and when he does, she notices that the paintings all over the campus form a pattern. So Vlad explains that it's a magic circle for mind control magic, making her realize they're all in danger. Meanwhile, Usagi runs into Reima, who then threatens to punish her for not sleeping in her dorm the previous night. When he asks if she wants her mind broken again, Usagi says she'll never obey him again, so he grips her bunny ears and says she can never escape his grasp. He then reminds her of what she did to her dead brother, so Usagi collapses and starts panicking again, while Reima smiles to himself, wondering what Takeru will do. In Nagaru's safe room, Shizuka reveals that Reima is definitely Mephisto and offers to go capture him, but Nagaru apologizes for making her sneak around for her. In response, Shizuka says she'd throw away her life if she demanded it. Hearing this, Nagaru apologizes to Shizuka for failing to save her and reveals that Shizuka would have given a secret response, saying she has always wanted to be a spy. So she pulls a gun on the intruder, who then draws her gun too, and shots rang in the room. At the same time, Takeru arrives at the platoon room, looking for Usagi, but Mari says she's out shopping. When she asks if something is wrong, Takeru rushes off to look for Usagi, so Mari runs after him, too. Shortly after, Shizuka joins Oka, and they both barge into Rima's office to arrest him, but Rima asks why and states that he hasn't done anything wrong yet. Oka then says that they know his true identity and calls him Mephisto. Suddenly, Shizuka speaks with a different voice that startles Oka, so she points the gun at her instead while she introduces herself as Mephisto. In addition, Mephisto reveals how Shizuka almost ended her life to avoid being possessed and states that she and Nagaru must be happy in heaven. Suddenly, Reima puts a magic card on her, enabling Mephisto to grab and possess her. Meanwhile, Mari feels her anti-magic collar deactivate and wonders what's going on. Just then, Takeru gets a call from Nagaru, who then introduces herself. She'd been saved by a bulletproof vest, so she tells him that Oka is in danger. At the same time, at Rima's office, Mephisto struggles to maintain her possession, but when Rima says she pulled it off just fine, Mephisto says it's like she has a split personality. After this, she says that Oka's soul still exists in the world, so she decides to activate her magic sooner. However, Rima gets worked up about this and says he transferred schools because she promised to make the Academy and the Inquisition his. Suddenly, she lifts him by his collar and says he's only alive because having him in her pocket can come in handy. After making him realize who's the boss, she drops him and assures him that once she's done, the Academy will be his. She then gets excited about getting her body back and exacting her revenge. Meanwhile, Nagaru explains to Takeru that Mephisto's body is locked up by the Academy, and she plans to get it back by brainwashing the students. Takeru then blames her for getting Oka involved and summons Lapis to ask about Oka and Usagi's locations. Just then, Lapis reveals that she can't find Oka, but Usagi is in the church. At the church, Usagi awakens and finds Reima trying to gatecrash her while claiming it's their wedding night. So she resists, but he slaps her and makes her feel worthless, so she lies down. However, when she sees a picture she took with her comrades, she remembers she now has a family, so she bites Rima and knocks him off her. Suddenly, he grabs a sword and transforms into his battle form. But as he approaches Usagi, Takeru breaks into the building and takes a slash at him. Excited, Usagi rushes over to hug him, so he tells her to help Mari and Ikaruga while he takes care of Reima. As she runs off, Reima tries to go after her, but Takeru stops him and prepares for a fight. Afterwards, Usagi meets Ikaruga in the locker rooms, where she gets handed a rifle and 2 special bullets. Ikaruga then tells her to avoid the vitals, since Oka still needs her body. On a rooftop nearby, while Mari tries to destroy Mephisto's magic, Mephisto shows up pretending to be Oka and starts acting worried about her. This amuses Mari, who then tells her to cut the crap, since Oka would never worry about her. Suddenly, Usagi arrives and takes Mephisto off the roof as they both drop. Just when Usagi aims her rifle at her, Mephisto sticks a spell card on her and runs off. Suddenly, every boy in the school starts approaching Usagi like zombies. At the church, Takeru beats Reima up and deactivates his suit, so he threatens to execute him and makes the idiot soak his pants. Back on the rooftop, a bullet hits Mari, but she continues trying to deactivate the magic even as she bleeds. When she tries to fire another shot, Takeru shows up and demands that Mephisto return Oka. Suddenly, Mephisto summons Oka's Relic Eater and takes a shot at Takeru, deactivating his Relic Eater. While Takeru marvels at this, Mephisto fires another shot, which knocks him off his feet. Despite this, Takeru attacks her with his sword, and Mephisto senses Usagi approaching, so she says she's got an idea. When Usagi arrives, Mephisto pretends to be Oka and says that Takeru has been possessed. This confuses Usagi, but when Takeru says she trusts Usagi, since neither of them can die from the bullets, Usagi hesitates. Suddenly, Mephisto starts acting weird since Oka is trying to push her out of her body. Oka then asks Usagi to shoot her, and when she does, Mephisto exits Oka's body. Seeing this, Usagi loads the other bullet and shoots her floating soul with it. Afterwards, they all panic while wondering how to revive Oka, but Ikaruga arrives, and on checking her, she declares that she'll be fine. Some days later, Ikaruga meets Sujetsu in his office, and he shows her the picture of a crystal taken by an undercover spy at Alchemist Corporation. In addition, he says that the crystal contains a dark elf and the corporation is trying to make weapons with it, but Ikaruga returns the file and says no one has succeeded at cloning a legendary creature. After this, Sugetsu points out that since she's a Tsuganami, she once worked with the corporation as a genius researcher they created, and asks if she has anything to tell him. However, she walks out, saying she has told him everything she knows. After she leaves, Kurogana suggests they arrest and interrogate her for the location of the Lost Matrix, but Sugetsu suggests they watch her instead. On her way out, Ikaruga realizes how much time has passed and contacts someone. Later, the platoons check out their results, and since they came last as usual, they all feel bad. Afterwards, in the platoon room, while they discuss how to get missions to improve their platoon's points, Takeru hands Ikuga a cup of tea and asks why she's not joining the discussion. In response, Ikuga says she's not in the mood. While drinking, they chat about how they've failed to progress over the years. When Takeru says it's been like that since it was just the two of them, Ikuga says he makes it sound like they're a couple. Shortly after, Ikuga announces that she's taking a leave from school for a while, and when the ladies ask why, she says she'll tell them if only they can handle the truth. When Takeru says he's heard enough of that, Ikuga heads for the door and bids them goodbye. Surprised by this, Takeru recalls the first time they met. He had been beaten in a fight, so Ikuga asks why he didn't draw his sword, and he said his pride won't let him use his sword against an unarmed opponent. Seeing him zoned out, Aka asks what's up with him, and he points out that Ikuga said goodbye for the first time since he's known her. Hearing this, Usagi chips in that Ikuga has been acting weird all day. Somewhere else, Haunted chats with a lookalike of Ikuga named Isuka about her lack of emotion and tells her it makes her look like an ignored sneaky link. In response, Isuka asks if he'd like to swim in her honey pot, but he says he's gone limp down there. He then asks if all Suganamis are like her, and she responds, saying research is the only thing that interests them. After this, Haunted asks why she betrayed Alchemist to join Valhalla. In response, Isuka says that, unlike Alchemist, she's allowed to create what they request of her. When he says she must have asked him to eliminate all the scientists at Alchemist for a practical reason rather than a grudge, Isuka confirms this. Suddenly, she feels a sharp pain in her head, and when Haunted asks if she's okay, Isuka reveals that her sister just sent her some information about the location of the Lost Matrix. Meanwhile, Ikuga's platoon members lost her while trailing her, and when they run to the spot, they realize she must have gone underground. Usagi then points out that the path underground is like a labyrinth, and when Takeru suggests they go after her, Mari says she's memorized the maps but can't tell where Ikuga is. Suddenly, Lapis appears and asks Takeru if he needs help. At the same time, Ikuga finds her way underground while talking to Isuka, who then says she has no place at the corporation if she returns. Hearing this, Ikuga says she's only interested in resurrecting the elves, so Isuka asks why she stole the Lost Matrix 4 years ago. In response, Ikuga says she would have been executed if she stayed, but Isuka doesn't believe her. Ikuga then says it's pointless, going back and forth, and says they can both get what they want. So, Isuka threatens not to show her mercy. Suddenly, she encounters some armed men, and they start firing at her. At the same time, some armed men fired at Takeru on the surface, and as they ran, they wondered what they had done wrong. When Lapis states that she gave them the correct location, Usagi asks why they ended up walking into a mafia trade. While they look for a way to escape, they take a left turn and suddenly run into some men standing over Ikuga's body. Immediately, Takeru takes one of them out, Oka shoots another. When he grabs Ikuga's body, another gunman emerges and fires at them, but they all take cover. Suddenly, Ikuga wakes up and is surprised to see Takeru. He then suggests they go back to back up the others, but Ikuga says they can't handle it. Just when Takeru tries to say that Oka can handle them, she tells him on comms to escape with Ikuga. Just then, some flying robots launch missiles at Takeru's position, but somehow, they survived, and while Takeru tells her to wait while he finds the others, he collapses into Ikuga, who then realizes he's injured. So she helps him as they walk to a safe house nearby. After this, Ikuga calls Isuka, saying things went south, and reveals that some of her friends showed up to ruin the plan. When Isuka says she can't believe that, Ikuga tells her to hire better mercenaries, since she'll never get the Lost Matrix if any of the platoon members get hurt. Meanwhile, Sujetsu contacts a representative of Alchemist, and she reveals that the corporation never authorized any elf research. When Sujetsu asks if the research is being carried out by a rogue research facility, the representative confirms this and offers to provide him with robots to destroy the facility. At the rogue research facility, Usagi, Aka, and Mari have been captured and stripped of their clothes. So Mari reveals that there are rumors that Alchemist is trying to resurrect elves. While they argue about the possibility of this, Isuka shows up and introduces herself, Ikaruga's sister. She then asks if it's true they're Ikaruga's friends, and Usagi confirms that they are while adding that they know her better than her. Surprised, Isuka asks what they know about her and reveals that she's a weapon who's only interested in things that stick out. After this, she narrates how she and Ikaruga were raised in a lab, and after a while, Ikaruga started getting interested in humans and matters involving emotions. Despite her warnings, Ikaruga created a wood elf, knowing she'll get thrown out for it, and tried to escape with it, but couldn't. After Ikaruga narrates this story to Takeru, she reveals that she joined the academy to keep the Lost Matrix from Alchemist. When Takeru starts asking more questions, she ignores them and says it might be their last time together, so she sits on him and says she wants him to rail her. While she unleashes her secret weapons, she says she doesn't understand love and romance, and says she's more interested in what it feels like to be pounded. When Takeru protests, saying it can't be done on a whim, Ikaruga says her cherry is unpopped and suggests they make their goodbye special. Suddenly, they hear helicopter sounds, and so Ikaruga sedates him while saying she loves him. On stepping out, Ikaruga meets Isuka and asks if she'll hold up her end of the deal. When Isuka says it depends on her, Ikaruga promises to make her life miserable if she breaks her promise. Somewhere else, a car drops Usagi, Mari, and Oka in the middle of nowhere, leaving the ladies confused. Suddenly, Usagi starts heading back, but Oka asks where she's headed. In response, she says she's going back to rescue Ikaruga, since she's sure she's at the facility. Curious, Oka asks how she knows, and Usagi says she must have negotiated their release using the Lost Matrix. Just then, Oka asks Usagi if she trusts Ikaruga after hearing about his past. In response, Usagi says none of it matters to her, and as she weeps, she says all she cares about is that Ikaruga needs saving, even if she's dabbling in crime. Moved by this, Oka and Mari decide to tag along, and suddenly, flying robots breeze past them. After this, a car shows up, and Sugetsu steps out of it. He then asks what they're doing there, and Oka, in turn, asks what's going on. Sugetsu says they're going to war and asks about Takeru and Ikaruga, but the ladies say they separated along the way. Sugetsu then opens his trunk and tells the girls to pick weapons, since it's unsafe. Meanwhile, Takeru crawls out of the safe house while Lapis asks what he intends to do. He responds, saying he'd like to save his comrades, so he asks her to help, and she activates his witch hunter suit immediately. After this, Takeru takes down some robots, and when Lapis helps Takeru locate the elf research facility, he takes down another. He then asks Lapis if she could fly, but she says the suit can only make him glide after jumping high. Impressed by this, Takeru compliments Lapis, but she tells him to stop making her blush. Just when Takeru tries to compliment her again, he suddenly gets launched into the sky. Meanwhile, Sugetsu arrives at the facility, and as the enemy robots approach them, he shoots a gun that takes them out in their numbers. At the same time, while Takeru takes down more enemy robots, he runs into Oka and asks what she's doing there. Just then, Usagi asks if he's okay, and when he wonders where she's speaking from, she says they're over a wall nearby to provide cover. Oka then points out that Ikaruga might get arrested if the Inquisitors find out she's involved in the experiments on the elves, so she suggests they get the truth out of her before it's too late. So, Takeru decides to be the vanguard, and Aka watches his back, and Usagi provides cover. Somewhere else, Isuka blames Ikaruga for running off with the Lost Matrix, since they could have made lots of progress together if she hadn't. When Isuka asks Ikaruga why she betrayed her, Ikaruga says she didn't betray her, and adds that she just wanted out after reading books that made her feel like the outside world has more to offer than just developing weapons. Hearing this, Isuka asks if she found what she left for, and Ikaruga states that she found youth. Unimpressed, Isuka asks if she knows how much she's lost because she ran off in pursuit of an unscientific concept. Suddenly, she starts feeling pain and reveals that her facial expressions have been restricted, and she feels pain when she feels any unnecessary emotions. When she says she was redesigned by the higher-ups, Ikaruga wonders why, since she was talented and obedient. Annoyed, Isuka blames Ikaruga for everything and says she can escape her fate by joining Valhalla if she succeeds in resurrecting the elves. So she demands the Lost Matrix, but Ikaruga says she came back to stop the resurrection of the elves and to get Isuka out, since she regrets leaving her behind 4 years ago. She then approaches Isuka and tries to convince her, but Isuka pushes her back and declares her an enemy. Suddenly, she takes out a gun and shoots Ikaruga while asking for the Lost Matrix. Just then, Ikaruga reveals that she's been staring at elf cells all along and shows Isuka the Philosopher's Stone embedded in her chest. Surprised, Isuka says it's impossible, so Ikaruga transforms into an elf to prove her wrong. She then threatens to destroy the entire facility with her mana just to save Isuka, but Isuka tells her to stop. As Ikaruga approaches Isuka, she feels pain in her head and drops her gun. However, Haunted bursts out in a petal and attacks Isuka. Outside the facility, Oka and Takeru take down more robots, and they both realize they're out of firepower, and to make matters worse, Usagi is also out of ammunition. Back in the facility, Haunted rips out Isuka's heart, and as she bleeds out, Ikaruga watches in disbelief. Suddenly, she attacks Haunted, who then blocks her attack with a spell, resulting in the explosion of the facility. After this, Ikaruga picks up Isuka, hoping to heal her, but with her last breath, she reveals that Canaria is alive and Valhalla has her. After Isuka passes on, Haunted returns in a shield and asks Ikaruga to join him, since Isuka already taught him how to resurrect elves and develop robots. Annoyed, Ikaruga responds with a headshot, annoying Haunted, so he transforms into a huge dragon and attacks the building. Seeing this from afar, Takeru jumps, and as Ikaruga drops from the building, he catches her. After this, the dragon destroys everything in sight with its fiery breath while Usagi and Mari run for their lives. Just as it prepares to fire up again, Takeru attacks it while Usagi prepares a giant anti-ballistic railgun and aims it at the dragon. While she aims from a control room, Ikaruga tells her to aim for the flight engine in the dragon's spine and reminds her that she's got only 5 shots. So, Usagi makes her first shot and hits the dragon, while Takeru keeps it occupied. However, Usagi misses her next couple of shots and finally manages to hit the dragon. Unfortunately, the dazed dragon snaps out of it immediately. When the dragon attacks again and knocks Oka unconscious, Takeru jumps on it and strikes the flight engine with his sword, leaving it cracked. Just then, he runs out of mana and his suit powers down, and in that moment, he wonders if he's about to lose his friend. Suddenly, Mari casts a spell and fires it at Takaru to recharge his suit. Immediately, Takaru channels every drop of mana he has into his sword and delivers a final slash that takes the dragon down for good. Later, in the platoon room, the platoon looks into an illegal magic artifact trade that is about to go down, and Usagi suggests they go undercover to get the criminal, since it's a chance to get points. When Alka suggests they prepare for the mission, Ikaruga says they're not up for it. However, Alka says she's been undercover many times, yet Ikaruga warns her to consider dropping out. Triggered by this, Alka decides to do the mission, and a few moments later, Alka shows up at a strip club, feeling awkward and dressed up like she's there for an audition. Afterwards, Oka, Mari, and Usagi share a table with some men old enough to date their moms. While Mari and Usagi vibe with the old men, one of them takes interest in Oka, but since her response isn't welcoming, Usagi warns her not to blow their cover. At this moment, Alka regrets letting Ikaruga bait her into taking the mission. Just then, one of the drunk men leans in and tries to fiddle with her fun orbs, but she crashes out, calling him names. So Takaru intervenes and apologizes to the men, claiming it's her first day on the job. Just then, Takaru tells his platoon members to let him handle the difficult customers. A few moments later, the ladies watch him handle the customers and wonder if he was made for the bar. As he walks a customer off, Takaru spots a package in a customer's pocket and asks his comrades to keep an eye on him. Just then, Alka sits beside him, and when the customer gets drunk, he tells his date that he has a gift for her and reaches for the gift, but touches Alka's rice cakes instead. Annoyed, Oka hits him with an uppercut, making the present fly as she pulls out a gun to shoot it. Seeing this, the other girls assume he's the suspect, so they all declare that he's under arrest for illegal trade in magic artifacts. Just then, they realize the gift is actually a gaming console, but a man holding a ring nearby gets spooked on realizing they're inquisitors. So, they run after him instead. Back at the academy, Aka apologizes for ruining the mission while Usagi backs her up, saying any girl would crash out if they were in her shoes. Afterwards, Ikaruga and Mari check out the ring artifact they recovered from the criminal, and it's just silver with a magic so weak she can't make out its type. When they realize it's not a significant magic artifact, they discuss their chances of getting good points on the mission. When Oka asks if there won't be consequences for having it appraised, Ikaruga says they won't be in the situation if she hadn't gone berserk on the mission. While Alka tames her anger, Ikaruga says she needs to test the ring, and just when she tries to put it on, Alka asks if she's gone crazy. Ikaruga then reminds him that the man was trying to give the ring to a girl he liked. Suddenly, they snatch the ring from her, and while Mari and Usagi fight for the custody of the ring, it slips out. Takaru then tries to catch it, but the ring suddenly glows and fits on one of his fingers. Suddenly, a weird light floods the room, and the girls start craving his candy stick. As Takaru evades Usagi, he runs into Mari, who then keeps lamenting about her mini saucers and tries to show him that she's not a boy. Takaru then stops her and escapes, but runs into Oka, who straddles him. After he escapes, he runs into Ikaruga, who figures they're all under the effect of the ring of drunkenness and pretends to be drunk too, but ends up throwing up. Some days later, the platoon travels on a bus for a mission to investigate a beach where summer hasn't stopped for over a year. On the way, while they try to figure out the cause, Ikaruga says it's awful that someone would prolong her least favorite weather on a beach. Takaru then comments that they'll find out when they get there and suggests they have fun while at it. When they arrive at the beach, they decide to investigate the shoreline, but Mari suddenly changes into her swimsuit and starts playing. Annoyed, Oka asks if she's gone mad, but Mari says she'll be cheering them on, since she's not really a member of the platoon. Shortly after, Usagi shows up in a swimsuit too and runs towards the ocean, but the ladies freak out on seeing her jiggle orbs. Alka then asks Ikaruga if it's her doing and points out that they're on a mission, but Ikaruga simply shows her swimsuits to pick from. A few moments later, Alka is dressed in a swimsuit, and when the other ladies give her side-eye, she says it'll make her investigation easier. Just then, they spot Takaru staring at the ocean and point out that he should be staring at things that Mother Nature lacks. While the others have fun, Ikaruga barely stays alive under an umbrella. So Lapis spots some men fishing with hooks and asks Takaru what it is. After Takaru explains what it is, they join the others to have lunch, and after gobbling up lots of ice cream, Takaru's brain freezes. Some moments later, he gets stomach upset and heads to the restroom, while the ladies stop Lapis from joining him. Meanwhile, Oka spots some Coast Guards carrying an unconscious man on a stretcher, so she asks what happened to him, and they said he was attacked by a giant monster and almost drowned. Hearing this, Lapis explains that it's probably a magical creature's doing. When the other wonders what she means, Lapis explains that there's a creature called the Inviter of Summer, which can make summer continue indefinitely. So they decide to investigate, but Oka says she can't swim, and Ikaruga asks to be left out. Meanwhile, Ikaruga screams in agony in the restroom, so Usagi and Mari decide to handle it. Just then, Mari suggests they get into the water as bait while she holds the fishing rod. Suddenly, the monster appears under Usagi and wraps them both with tentacles. Just then, they tell Lapis to pull the rod, but when she does, the threads snap. The monster then pulls both ladies underwater, and at that moment, Takeru rushes out and transforms into his with hunter's suit before jumping into the water. When he crashes on the ocean bed, the ladies suggest he convert his weapon into a fishing rod. So, Takeru does this and throws the hook into the monster's mouth. Just then, the monster lets them off while Takeru drags it out of the sea. Afterwards, when they prepare to leave, Oka gets some popsicles and hands them to Mari and Usagi as rewards for saving the day. Sometime later, Takeru visits the facility where his sister is being helped, and after being checked by security, he finally meets with Kiseki, who's also excited to see him. After they talk about how much they've both grown, Kiseki asks Takeru about his school, and he reveals that he now has more troublesome teammates. When he tells her a little about his comrades, Kiseki teases him, saying he's fallen in love, but Takeru says it's nothing like that and adds that he's dazzled by the way she walks. When Kiseki says she's happy for Takeru, he thinks about her in confinement and figures there's nothing happy about her life, so he says that although he can't change the world, he wants to provide her with a normal life. Just then, his visiting time runs out, and he's asked to leave. So he bids her goodbye and takes his leave, while Kiseki still has more to say to him. Meanwhile, the small fry platoon chase a criminal, so when Usagi shoots one of his tires, the criminals hijack a bike and start running while Oka chases them and reads out their crimes to them. Just then, one of the criminals boosts the bike's speed with a spell, but Oka soon catches up with them. When they look surprised, she states that a mad scientist modified her bike. Suddenly, she stops chasing them and notifies Takeru to finish the mission. Just then, they ride into an alley, where Takeru cuts off their tires and arrests them. The next day, while they talk about how much Usagi has improved, Aka notices Takeru's tired eyes and asks him to get some rest. When Takeru says he's fine, Aka says he can rely on her if he's having trouble, so when Takeru thanks her, she suggests that he go to see his sister. Later that day, Takeru runs into Sugetsu and Kiyoya, so he tries to ask him about Yoshimizu, but Kiyoya knocks off his hand and calls him a traitor. Shortly after, Sugetsu and Kiyoya arrive at a control room where Kiseki is being monitored and sedated. When Kurogane points out that it's taking more doses to keep her sedated, he asks if anything strange happened when Takeru visited her, but Sugetsu says her vitals stabilize whenever Takeru visits. Suddenly, Kiseki awakens, and while they analyze her mana levels, Sugetsu points out that her power is unassociated with her mana levels. After this, he reveals that Kiseki's powers change anything it touches into a part of her, and if left unchecked, she might consume the entire planet. He says that they have to keep drawing out Kiseki's powers and destroying them until there's nothing left. Just then, Kiseki thinks about Takeru leaving with some other girl, and she panics and mistakenly activates her abilities. While they struggle to get her sedated, Sugetsu points out that Kiseki has grown since the last time and tells Kurogane to handle it. Shortly after, Kurogane summons his relic Eater, while Kiseki asks for her brother. Meanwhile, the small fry platoon is on another mission, and Ikaruga gets distracted by Aka's bouncy castles, but Aka tells her to stay focused. Mari and Usagi, on the other hand, are handing flyers to people in skimpy outfits. When the target arrives, Oka explains that he's a B threat level wizard and asks them to put a transmitter on him so they can find his hideout. So when Isagi parades her melons and hands him a flyer, he ignores her existence, but when Mari hands him one, he takes it and checks it out. Suddenly, he figures it's hiding a transmitter, so he takes out his gun and shoots at them, but Mari puts up a defensive shield. Just when Oka tries to take the shot, the bullet casings transform into Madragoras, so Oka tells Takeru to go after him while they handle the monsters. Shortly after, Takeru chases them into an alley where he hears them scream, so he pauses to see what needs them, and to his surprise, Kiseki emerges from the dark, saying she followed the sound of his heartbeat. As she collapses, Kiseki catches her and asks what she's doing outside. In response, she says she wanted to see him. When the other ladies show up, Takeru panics, so he points his sword at them and tells them to stay away. Aka then says she doesn't understand the situation but states that they're not his enemies, so Takeru sheathes his sword. Afterwards, Aka asks if Kiseki is dangerous, and Takeru explains that she's more dangerous than anything they can imagine, but assures them that his sister is not a threat to them as long as he's there. Hearing this, the ladies are surprised, so Takeru explains that she's a double S threat level and adds that she must have broken out to see him. Meanwhile, at the prison, Sugetsu looks for Kurogane amidst the rubble, and when he gets up from under a stone, he apologizes for letting Kiseki escape. When he offers to go after her, Sugetsu says he's got people going after her already and tells Kurogane to team up with them. Somewhere else, Kiseki awakens and confesses to Takeru that she took some lives, but Takeru says it's an accident and says it's not her fault. Just then, Aka barges in and introduces herself, so Kiseki shyly introduces herself. After Takeru explains that she has never had a conversation with anyone aside from him, Aka asks to talk to him. In a separate room, the ladies ask him to explain, so Takeru reveals that Kiseki almost wiped out their entire village because she couldn't control her power. Ikaruga then says she's suffering from overflow syndrome, a condition that affects witches who don't come from magical lineages. In addition to this, she explains that it can be suppressed in witches who get diagnosed by using an anti-magic collar, but for Kiseki, she's a walking disaster. When Usagi wonders if they're safe, Ikaruga says that Kiseki has exhausted her mana. After this, while they discuss what to do with her, Takeru suggests they call the Inquisition, but Aoka suggests they escort her instead to give them some bonding time. A few moments later, the ladies inform Kiseki that she's going on a date to bond with Takeru, so they try out different outfits on her. Later on their date, Kiseki tells Takeru that his friends treated her like a younger sister, despite knowing she's dangerous. After talking about Oka's beauty, Kiseki says she's got a request. Hearing this, Takeru says he'd give her anything, so she asks if he could unalive her. After her weird request, Kiseki says she never thought she could go on a date with him, and now that she has, she feels so happy. Kiseki then reveals that her powers keep getting stronger and adds that she's scared she might hurt people as she did in the past. When she says she deserves to die, she says she'd like to die by his hands. In response, Takeru says he can't do it since he wants her to live and adds that the day he does it is the day he dies too. So he promises her that it's not time yet, and on hearing this, Kiseki says she'll wait for however long it takes. Somewhere in the woods, Orochi returns home and tells his partner, Watery, about Valhalla's new mission for them. According to the boss, the target they are supposed to rescue broke out of jail. So Watery suggests they take the opportunity to destroy the academy, but Orochi says they can't act out of self-interest like Haunted and Mephisto. He then says that their orders are to capture Kiseki. Meanwhile, Takeru and Kiseki head to the park, and when she sees the Ferris wheel for the first time, Takeru suggests they ride it. However, Kyuya and Yoshimizu show up and say they're on a witch hunt. So Takeru tells Kiseki to run while they all activate their relic eaters. After Takeru dodges a shot from Kyoya's gun, he asks why he has a relic eater, and Kyoya says that not only he and Aka have potential. While Takeru tries to talk them out of capturing Kiseki, he realizes that Kyoya's relic eater is Yoshimizu's lookalike, named Nero. Immediately, Kyoya fires another shot at Kiseki, but Takeru takes the hit. Just as they're about to clash again, Kurogana arrives on the scene and stops them. He then reminds them that there'll be consequences for deploying their abilities in public. When he realizes that a collar has been put on Kiseki, he asks to talk to her, so he apologizes for failing to show her the outside world and promises to see her again. After this, Kiseki hugs him and reminds him of his promise to her. Just then, she goes unconscious, and Sujitsu explains that she's been sedated through the collar. He then points out that helping a threat stay at large is a crime, so the soldiers arrest Kiseki while Sujitsu orders them to take him to solitary confinement. When Takeru asks about his sister's fate, Sujitsu says that the alchemist offered to help, and she might be transferred to a different facility. Takeru then asks where, but Sujitsu says he can't tell him, since Valhalla is targeting her. Later that night, while Kiseki is being transported, while in flight, Watery suddenly breaks into a plane and figures it's just a decoy. Meanwhile, in a convoy on land, Kurogana is notified about the attack on the plane, but he tells everyone to proceed as planned. After this, he tells Kyoya to be ready to move, but Kyoya asks Kurogana if he's taking sides and tells him to stay out of the way if he doesn't feel like doing his job. Suddenly, their convoy gets attacked by robots, so they step out to handle them. Meanwhile, in solitary confinement, Takeru dreams about a memory where his father told him that the daughters of his family are always born as demons and executed. However, since Kiseki is immortal, his father died trying to end her and handed him a sword to finish it, but he couldn't. Just then, Takeru hears Oka calling him from the next cell and blaming herself, but he tells her that he's grateful he got to spend some time with his sister because of her. Aka then says she wants to share some of his burden because she's indebted to him. While thinking of how far they've come together, Aka says she found peace at the platoon, since all she's ever lived for was revenge. She then thanks Takeru for changing her and sharing her burden like he promised to. After this, Nagaru shows up and leads them out of their cells while explaining that she knows some of the guards, so she begs them for the keys as a favor. She then announces that the vehicle transporting Kiseki got attacked by Valhalla and suggests he head to the scene. When they step out, they find Usagi, Mari, and Ikaruga waiting and offering to help. Just then, Takeru says he needs their help to save Kiseki, but the ladies overreact, saying Takeru never asks for help. Surprised, Oka asks why they're glaring at her, and the ladies ask if something happened between them in the cell, but Oka tells them to cut the crap since they're out of time. Back in the city, Kurogane shoots down the last robot, and just then, Orochi shows up, introducing himself as one of the leaders of Valhalla. Kurogane then tells Kyoya to focus on his mission, since Orochi is too much for him to handle. After Kyoya leaves, Orochi asks Kurogane if he can really handle him, so Kurogane summons an extra gun. Meanwhile, Kyoya suddenly feels weird guarding a heretic as an inquisitor, so he stops the truck and tries to eliminate Kiseki, but Takaru shows up on the scene to stop him. When Takaru asks what Kiseki ever did to him, Kyoya says he hates the fact that heretics live among them. Just then, Nero appears and encourages Kyoya to hate everyone and everything. Surprised, Takaru asks Nero if she made him hateful, but she says she's only amplifying what he's already feeling. Takaru then tells Kyoya that his teammates wouldn't want that for him, but this annoys Kyoya, so he shoots at Takaru, who then dodges the attacks and destroys his gun. Despite this, Kyoya says he's not done yet, so Aka shoots him and deactivates his relic eater. Kyoya then assures them that they'll regret sparing Kiseki and jumps into a river. So, Takaru tells Kiseki that he'll find a way to make a home for her in the world. While he tries to get her off the truck, her body starts expanding, so she begs Takaru to end her life, but Haunted suddenly emerges in a petal and impales Takaru with one of his tentacles. Seeing this, Kiseki freaks out and starts expanding uncontrollably all over the city. Seeing this from a distance, Usagi asks what just happened, and Ikaruga says it's the worst-case scenario and suggests they regroup. Meanwhile, as Kiseki's body keeps spreading all over the city, Sujetsu and Suzaku, the chairman of the Alchemist Board, watch from a high place. He then comments that her wish has finally come true. Excited, Suzaku asks if Kiseki can be cloned, but Sujetsu says it's impossible. He then states that they sacrificed an entire area to satisfy her curiosity. Suzaku then offers to help clean up the mess, but Sujetsu says they might not need to, since the academy has an ultimate weapon. Just then, Sugetsu asks Suzaku to bet on whether or not Takaru will be able to put his sister to rest for good. Somewhere nearby, Haunted tells Kiseki that he finally realizes why Valhalla wants her, and when she tries to attack him, he warns her not to get him involved. Just then, Oka shows up and demands that he hand over Takaru, but Haunted says he's bait to capture Kiseki. Oka then says she'll have to take him by force, so she summons Vlad and starts shooting at Haunted, who then blocks the shots with his tentacles and retaliates. Afterwards, he starts attacking Oka in a close-range combat and pierces through her. Just then, Oka decides to form a contract with Vlad, who then says he thought she would never accept him, since she was only using him for revenge. While defending herself against Kiseki's demon, she explains that she needs to form the contract to protect her loved ones. Suddenly, they form the contract, and Oka gets transformed into her witch-hunting suit for the first time. Suddenly, Oka launches an attack on Haunted, but he protects himself with a shield. However, when he dispels the barrier, he had transformed into his battle wear, so he attacks while Oka blocks his attacks. Oka then launches a counterattack and pierces through Haunted, giving her the chance to rescue Takaru. Coincidentally, the other ladies arrive in a van, so Oka gets in with Takaru. On their way, they try to figure out a way to stop Kiseki, and Ikaruga says they'll have to keep destroying her overflowing powers until she runs out of mana. When the ladies ask how long it'll take, Ikaruga says it could last for days. After this, she adds that it's impossible to end Kiseki unless she wants to be unalived by the person. Suddenly, their van gets toppled by Kiseki's powers, and when they crawl out, Mare puts up a barrier, while Usagi keeps firing at the monster. She then asks about Takaru, and Aka reveals that his relic eater is healing his wounds. While they wonder why he's not coming awake, the ladies decide to bear some of his burdens, so Oka forcefully activates her relic eater and tells Mary to protect the other, while she flies away to deal with Kiseki's monster, but on seeing her, the monster accuses her of taking Takaru from Kiseki. Meanwhile, while Takaru blames himself for everything happening, Lapis appears and says it's not too late to correct his mistakes. She then offers to give him all her power in return for everything he has and asks if he'll abandon his humanity and desire her to achieve his goals. After thinking of everything at stake, Takaru accepts her offer, so she kisses him, and Lapis commences a soul integration. Suddenly, Takaru is transformed into God Hunter mode. At the same time, Kiseki weeps, since the demon keeps acting and speaking against her will. So, Oka attacks the demon, but realizes she needs to get back to her friends. Just then, the demon transforms into many bat-like creatures to prevent her from leaving, so Aka blows them all up. Meanwhile, Mary struggles to keep her barrier up while the other ladies run out of ammunition. Just then, Takaru shows up looking different in his God Hunter suit. While they wonder if it's him, Oka arrives, and he confirms that he's the one. However, sucks out Oka's powers, deactivating her suit, and tells the other ladies to take care of her. When he tells them to get out, Oka says he can't end his family with his own hands, but Takeru says he won't fight for Kiseki alone and adds that he can't walk by their side anymore. Hearing this, the ladies beg him not to leave, but he begs them to forgive him and flies away. Afterwards, he locates Kiseki, who then asks if he's finally going to put an end to the chaos. While they talk, Haunted shows up laughing and says he enjoys watching, so Takeru attacks him, while Haunted says he must have transformed into God mode to end his sister. While they fight, the monster says that it wants to die alongside Takeru, but while Kiseki gets teary-eyed about this, the monster blames Takeru for failing to end Kiseki when he had the chance. Takeru then says he was indecisive then and reveals that he now knows better, so he decides to stay true to his desire. Suddenly, Haunted attacks him while saying he speaks too highly of a dude whose soul got devoured by his relic eater. Haunted then rips open Takeru's mask, but Takeru insists he won't give up on his sister and friends. The monster then keeps telling Takeru to fulfill his promise so they can all die together, so Haunted assures Takeru that he'll send Kiseki after him when he defeats him. Meanwhile, Kiseki reveals that she actually doesn't want to die with her brother, but the monster shuts her up by sealing her. Just then, Haunted attacks Takeru again, but this time, he carries out an enchantment and slices through Haunted. After Haunted blows up, Takeru reaches into the monster and pulls Kiseki out. So he hugs her, and the monster vanishes all over the city. Just then, Valhalla's agents retreat while Sugetsu meets Orochi, who then asks if he's trying to make history repeat itself. However, Sugetsu says that the battle has already begun and states that chaos is about to descend on them. Somewhere else, Takeru meets his comrades, who then ask if he saved Kiseki, but Takeru says he didn't since he'll only be putting her through more suffering. So the ladies tell him to rely on them and not suffer alone, as they offer to bear his burden with him. If you made it to the end of this video, confuse the fake fans by commenting "Haunted is a goat." And if you like more videos like this, like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.